Hello! Hello, everybody. What is up? How are you all doing today? Oh, man. My name is Avi. I'm from JustWriteMusic.com. Thank you guys so much for sharing your time with me today. I really want to talk to all those in-the-box artists today who don't play a physical instrument, or maybe they'll play like a drum machine. Nah, that drum machine is an instrument. You know what? I'm going to count it. Never mind. If you're playing a drum machine, then I'm not talking to you today, really. But if you don't play an instrument, if you don't play any type of physical instrument at all, if you're just putting all of your music and doing all that creation totally in the box and just plugging MIDI in there, I'm talking to you, and this is my plea to you to please learn an instrument. I don't care which one it is. Learn a guitar, learn keyboard. It doesn't matter. But I've got 3 big reasons I want to share with you why it's going to make you a better songwriter. Now, if you already play an instrument, then congrats, you're already great. You're already ahead of the curve, and you're doing fantastic. Stick around, and I'll tell you why you should keep playing that instrument with my 3 reasons. They are twofold in that sense. And I'll also include a brief recommendation, list of recommendations at the end of the video in order to, that'll give you guys an idea of, depending on what your goals are, what instrument you might want to pick up playing. Something like that. Cool. Like, whether you're doing a film score or trying to write a rock song, this stuff will help you. Okay, sweet. I am having a day today, if you can't notice. All right, before we get into everything, though, I want to tell you about my free guide, 7 Ways to Write a More Effective Melody. It's super valuable and has a ton of great versatile techniques that I personally use. I don't use all of them every time I sit down, but I do use a decent amount of them every time I sit down to write. And they just help the writing sessions go smoothly, because they're just these sweet little tools that I can pick out and just keep writing music with, and it's really all about these tools, and I want to give these tools to you, obviously for free. Just head down to justwritemusic.com. There will be a link in the description after everything is said and done here on this live video. But yeah, you can also head down to justwritemusic.com and let me know where to send it. All right. Fantastic. So I want to be really, really clear here before we move ahead, before I start mentioning why I'm really making this video, or why I think that you should learn to play a physical instrument. There's nothing wrong with not learning to play a physical instrument. You can, these days, it's amazing. You can just get a computer, get a piece of software, and you can start writing music really, really easily, and that's fantastic. That barrier to entry is super low, and that's super cool. And there's I don't have any any hard feelings if you are a music producer and you're just doing everything in the computer, doing everything via MIDI, or just right out there on your laptop without any physical instruments. Sometimes that's all we have available to us. That's all we can afford. That's all our resources are. And that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I have 0 hard feelings about that. I understand that sometimes it's a matter of circumstance. But I will say, if you are serious about your craft and you're serious about being a better songwriter, being a better music creator, then I wholeheartedly believe that learning to play a physical instrument will help you in that journey. I just said the word journey. Gross. Oh, man. Will help you in that path, in that journey. Damn it, journey is the word that works. It'll help you along that path. And so that brings me to the first big thing that I really want to mention, and this is an issue that I see a lot with songwriters and composers who are mixing solely in the box. And this is that playing an instrument, a real physical instrument, it gives you an idea of what a real instrument can physically do, right? So every instrument is different, but they all have qualities that make them sound musical, right? So, for example, the range of a flute and the range of a clarinet are 2 very different things, and they can play very different lines and sound very different while doing them, right? So, that's the type of thing where you might be able to write a specific type of melody or a specific type of harmony for an instrument that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. I think maybe the biggest offender here are creating harmonies with single pitch instruments. I've seen this from time to time where people will be writing chords in a trumpet part, and you know, it might sound great. It might not sound great actually, but because what happens is those are only single pitch instruments, so you can't have one trumpet player do all of that stuff. So it and oftentimes the ranges that are allowed by music notation softwares and by digital audio workstations like Logic and those virtual instruments, they can go well beyond, those sounds go well beyond the physical ranges of the actual instrument. So they'll tell you when you've crossed it, but they'll still make a sound. So it really kind of gives you this sense that that anything is possible, and in physical reality, that's just not the case, right? You know, this is especially important. Obviously, I talked a lot about classical instruments just now, but this is super important for composers or anybody who's looking to write orchestral music or anything in the classical sphere, and you haven't yet sought some type of musical education. You know, knowing an instrument's range, where they sound good, and how they're traditionally used within an orchestra setting or within a chamber setting, or you know what role they play or what function they play within an ensemble. It's really important to know that because it makes your music sound like music. It makes it sound refined. It makes it sound like you know what you're doing. And I'm gonna say I'm gonna address what some of you might be thinking right now, which is, you know, you don't actually get to it's not going to limit your creativity. That's exactly what I think is a lot of you might be thinking right now. It might limit your creativity to know, like, oh, well, this instrument can't go above a C6, so you know that's limiting. It's really not. Even if it, you know, limits breed creativity. You know, limiting yourself actually makes you better. So I would argue that is a good thing, personally speaking. And what they do is, like, when you're breaking a limit, and physical ranges isn't really a good example here. If you're breaking, like, if you're using a clarinet or you're using a flute, stick with those examples, in a way that is not traditional, you can do that more innovatively and more originally if you know how to use that instrument in the first place. So then you kind of know where to innovate. You know what I mean? It's like trying to come up with an idea for something, but you don't know what you're talking about. If you know what you're talking about, it's a lot easier to come up with an idea for how to be creative or how to push a boundary somewhere, right? These physical instruments also, and this is something that I will touch on a little bit later as well, it allows you to step away from the computer. You know, from just inputting MIDI on the screen. It gives you another angle from which to approach the process of creating music from. And that's always good to have. It's always good to have different angles that we can approach our craft from, because you never know when we're just going to sit down and one of those angles that we depend on more regularly might just be not there in that moment, but we really need to get some work done that day or something like that. And or you're just having writer's block, you know. So if you can, one of the best ways to avoid that is to just change the angle, change like the angle of attack that you're hitting your music at. And that you can often circumvent that block or circumvent that sort of energy stoppage that's happening in that moment. But you can't do that if you don't diversify those angles, right? We're talking about stock portfolios now. We're diversifying our music writing stuff. Yeah. Ooh. Cool. All right. So yeah, it gives you an idea of how physical instruments act in the real world, because that's, you know, before 10 years ago, really, 15 years ago, let's go to before 20 years ago, before like electronic music was really mainstream, really popular, and was really accessible, this is what music was. And like it or not, that's the tradition that we're working with, like it or not. So if that's the tradition that we're working with, the way at least in Western society, at least in Western music, the way our ear reacts to and adapts to music that, you know, we deem pleasurable or deem unpleasurable is going to be affected by that tradition. So it only helps you sound like you know what you're doing, sound more refined. And that's always a good thing. You want to know what you're doing so that you have more control over your creative process, right? Okay, so that was number one. The next thing I want to talk about, this next point, it's a whole guy. So playing a real instrument allows you to learn to play other people's songs. Now, we're songwriters, we're composers. Why should we learn other people's music? That's what instrumentalists and performers do, right? Yeah, but it's also really important to be able to play other people's music for a very, very good reason, especially if you're not interested in or aren't or don't have available to you a resource like a being able to go and get a music degree or something. If you don't, you might not have the resources, you might not be able to do it financially, which is the case for a lot of us these days, unfortunately. And most of the time we're just stuck watching YouTube, trying to figure stuff out from people who are giving us tutorials. Been there. I've been there. I'm right there with you guys. So it can be really easy to just get stuck in that process, especially if you're not already learning or already learn how to play a physical instrument. It's really easy to just you might build up some good critical listening skills, but it's not the same as learning a part of a song and playing it yourself, and then playing the recording of that song and playing along with the recording and syncing up with it beautifully. There's nothing quite like it. And yeah, this is definitely more in the instrumentalist and musician type of realm, but I would argue that a great songwriter is also a great musician. I think those things are interconnected very much so. So being able to play these songs, they allow you to learn and really get under the skin of the type of music that you are inspired by, even if it's totally a different genre than in what you're writing. Being able to get under the music like that it gives you a lot of insights. It's very insightful, and it's the type of learning and craft honing that you kind of do by osmosis, just by learning songs. You're learning something every single time that you're learning a new song. You're getting better every single time, and you're doing that all by osmosis. And it's a really fun way to learn. You're getting to play music. How cool is that, right? It's only going to make your music better, because the more music you listen to and the more music you learn to play, the more music you're inspired by, gives you greater palette from which to draw from when you're in your creative music writing mode. This is my jig. This is my creative music writing mode jig. Do you like it? Yeah. Okay, cool. No. Hit the like button if you think that was ridiculous. All right. So the next thing about that is, this is invaluable. It gives you a physical connection to your instrument, even if you're just writing stuff on a drum machine or something. You're just hitting a bunch of squares. Like you're still physically and tactilely interacting with an instrument. If you're doing everything in MIDI with a keyboard and you are inputting MIDI with a keyboard, you are playing a physical instrument. The keyboard is a physical instrument. You're using a real instrument to interface with the computer to create sound, right? So that's totally fine if that's what you're doing. And the more songs you learn, like what we're talking about, the better you become at your instrument as well. And that kind of puts a fire under your butt to get better. And it's not only will your technique improve, the more songs you learn, the better you get at your instrument. You also are refining your taste, refining your palette, and learning not only what sounds good, but being able to pick things out in other people's music that you really, really like, and you'll be able to know what they are, especially if that's the same instrument. That's a huge thing too. We can't really get around that by any means. Cool. Yeah. So, big reason number 2, you get to learn other people's music, and other people make really great music. There's a reason why there's a whole community of people that are still playing people's music that was written 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago. We still are learning from those people, and we want to be able to. And the more we learn, the better we are, right? And that's what this is about. It's all about learning. It's all about learning. Okay, so big idea number 3, big reason number 3 why you should learn to play an instrument, a real physical instrument. And this is maybe the most important one of all. You get to jam with people. You get to collaborate with other people so much easier if you're both able to pick up an instrument and just start playing. Like when you collaborate in the box, you can do that. You can collaborate in the box. Obviously, people do it all the time. You can do it from really far away, just throw stuff in the cloud and send it to each other, and everybody does their thing. That's really cool. That's awesome. But there isn't quite there's nothing quite like sitting down with someone in a room to jam and just kind of see what comes of it, right? There's no skeleton you're already starting from. In fact, this is a really popular way. Many people find this method of writing a lot more natural than sitting down at a desk. Sitting down to an instrument and on a chair, with an instrument to write music feels a lot more natural to a lot of people than sitting down at a desk in front of a computer. It tends to feel more like work. Writing music is work, for sure. But the feel of it being work can be off-putting to a lot of people because music is supposed to be fun. Doing my jig again, the fun music jig. Hit like if you like this jig, or if you don't like it because it's weird and I'm a weirdo. Cool. So playing with other musicians also force you to be better. They force you to just to up your game as a musician and as a songwriter, especially if you are jamming with and writing songs of people who are objectively or technically better than you are. You're going to be naturally challenged by them. And the longer you are collaborating with them or working with them, the better you're going to get, the farther or the faster you're going to get up to their level or up to a more similar level of them. You're certainly, no matter what, are going to be a far better musician than you were previously or otherwise, right? And that's really huge because you get to play with people that inspire you and play with them, write with them, make art and create with them, and get better yourself. There's really nothing, I really can't overstate this. This used to be the only way music was written, right? Aside from, 18th century gentlemen folks sitting down at a harpsichord and scribbling everything down. That's the music producer, old school music producer tradition. Old white dude, I should say. So yeah, there's nothing quite like being able to sit with someone who really inspires you and jam with them and come up with some cool stuff with them. That's pretty amazing, and that really helps to keep that motivation and keep that inspiration, that passion thriving as you continue along your path, your journey as a songwriter or composer. So yeah. Also jamming, the last thing I want to talk about in this part of it is jamming and playing with others is also the best way to network and meet other people in the field. I mean, yeah, you can go to conventions, you can do you can do that thing, but some people can't afford to go to a convention. They can't afford a plane ticket or a hotel room, or even just how much it costs to get into the convention itself. So but what you can do is you can go out to your local music hangouts. Well, after we're allowed to go outside and live life again, after we do that. If you're living with someone, then awesome. If they're also a musician, go and jam with them, start writing some music with them. That'd be super cool. Otherwise, we're just going to be desktop producers just throwing stuff back and forth on the cloud, which is totally fine. That's really making the best of a pretty crappy situation. So keep doing that. If you're already doing that, you're already ahead of the curve. That's fantastic. But networking is huge in the music industry. It's all about who you know. That's a saying for a reason. And in the music industry, that's more important than literally anything else. It doesn't matter if you're going into the music industry, it doesn't matter what type of degree or education you have. It doesn't matter what your skill set actually is. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. Really, nothing really of that. None of those that background stuff really matters. What really matters is who you know, and if you're putting yourself in a situation where you can network and where you can leverage the people that you know in order to make some really cool music. Leverage isn't the right word. That makes it sound super exploitive, but I mean, a little bit is. We live in a capitalist world. If you're a business person, you're exploiting someone. It just has a crappy connotation. That's just the reality of it, though. So yeah, that's the whole thing. If you want to be a hit songwriter, you're a great songwriter, or be a hit pop star or rock star or rap star or film composer star, which isn't as much of a thing anymore these days. Learning and jamming and playing with others, or if you're a composer, getting talking with musicians and getting them in a room to play your piece and really getting under the music with them. That's how you do that. And also, when you're going to sit down and jam with someone, be a pleasure to work with. That is the biggest and one of the most important things. Always be super kind. Always be super understanding. Never get angry. Never make a fuss. If someone does something wrong, you can be like, "Hey, that wasn't cool," but be a person about it. There's no reason to like. No one wants to work with anyone who's going to like really just like fly off the handle and make a scene. That's just not professional, right? So yeah, that's huge. And also, jamming with people, it's the best way to know if they're going to be a good collaborator with you. If you guys have chemistry and what that chemistry kind of looks like. It's a little bit harder to do online with the music producer stuff, but that is kind of all we have right now. So do it up, please. Okay, so those are my 3 big reasons why you should learn a physical instrument. Even just like having some basic functionality on it gives you a more tactile understanding of what playing music is like in the real world, in the physical world. Digital world is real too, but it's, we can turn off the digital world. We kind of can't turn off the physical world. I mean, I guess we're slowly doing that. Oh, that's sad. Anyway, so now you know why learning to play a physical instrument is a super, super fantastic idea. And sorry, brain fart. Oh my gosh. Learning to play an instrument is a super great idea. So as promised, I want to give you like a really quick list. It's just a super brief list on what instruments might be best suited for what goal you may have, right? So for the aspiring composer or film scorer or in the box producer, I would say learn keyboard or piano, especially if you're doing beats, if you're doing any type of if you're like only doing in the box stuff, you're not doing any real analog recording or anything like that, no miking except for vocals. I would definitely recommend going with the keyboard or piano route. The keyboard, you can throw the keyboard into an audio interface via MIDI, something like that, or in USB. They have USB ones now, and USB ones now. It's 2020, and you can assign a host of different sounds to it. And you can get a great orchestra sound out of it. You can get a great, some really weird manipulative, sound manipulation stuff out of it. So I really recommend that to anybody who's just doing in the box stuff and is interested in any way, shape, or form of classical music or film scoring or anything like that. All right. Next, if you are doing analog recording, if you are doing some type of recording other than vocals, and you're not totally in the box. And what I mean by in the box is you're only solely using your computer for music production, right? You're not using an outside physical instrument. In the box in the audio world means something a little bit different. That means just doing all of the engineering and all of the producing inside a computer, right? So it's similar, but they do have different definitions in these slightly different circles, connected, but different. So yeah, guitar is probably going to be the instrument for that situation. You still get the similar type of, not orchestral stuff, but you can still do chords with a guitar. You can still build chord progressions really easily with a guitar. And guitar tends to be the instrument of choice of a lot of people who are into the rock genre, into blues, into jazz. It tends to be a pretty big starting point. You can also do bass. Bass is also a really great idea for this. Bass is also a great idea for the aspiring film scorer or in the box, not so much for just the solely in the box computer producer guys. Bass won't help you as much there. But for the other guys, keyboard, the bass is kind of worked into the keyboard. If you get any real good piano technique actually moving, that'll be super helpful for you. So that's something. That is something. So the next is drums. And I recommend drums for the type of people for the producer or music creator who is, making beats. They are probably, if you're really into hip hop or rap, I would absolutely recommend learning some basic drum beats and stuff because, when you're hip hop and rap has much more emphasis on rhythm and on vocals, and as well as vocal rhythm, right? It's so important, and it's watching people freestyle and going super crazy fast. It's incredible. I don't know how people do that. It's amazing, but that's really a super important thing in hip hop and rap. It's the rhythm. The rhythm plays a much bigger role than it does in classical music or even in rock music. A lot of rock subgenres do utilize rhythm more so than classical music. but at least in that particular way, it functions differently. That's kind of the big thing. It functions a little bit differently. But you need to be able to have like really sharp sort of instincts when you're doing hip hop and rap. And learning drums allow you to kind of build those instincts up and really physicalize them, which will also help you vocalize them because they'll be in your body. If you can sing it, you can play it. And if you can play it, you can sing it. I heard that actually from my high school band teacher, Mr. Byrne. Mr. Byrne, if you ever see this, thank you so much. I love you. You are a great teacher. You are a hard ass, but you were a good teacher. It was warranted. It worked. It worked. You were great. Yeah, if you can play it, you can sing it, and if you can sing it, you can play it. It's a general rule of thumb. It might not always be. Of course, there's going to be exceptions. You can really go into like go deep into virtuosity, and yeah, you can't like clearly sing or vocalize some of that stuff. But it's a general rule of thumb that could be really helpful. Yeah, that's mostly it. These are the three really main instruments. Keyboard is kind of a catch-all. You get really good at rhythm, you get really good at harmony, and you get really good at melody. And with keyboard, or piano is kind of like always a good idea. I don't think the keyboards it may not ever actually go away because it's just so ergonomic to the human hands. Same thing with the guitar, very ergonomic, very easy to learn, very easy to play. For the most part, it's not like learning to play harp or even French horn. French horn is hard. There's like different keys and stuff that you have to be aware of, and you're playing a different. It's a nightmare. But unfortunately, French horn's a really beautiful instrument. It sounds amazing, and I'll never play it. No, I can do it for a while. Anyway, that's really it. That's all for this video. I just went on a huge tangent. Excuse me. But that's all for today. Just to quickly recap, 3 big reasons why you should pick up a physical instrument if you're an in-the-box music producer or creator. One, you know what a physical instrument can do. It gives you a better idea of what they are, and it kind of saves you from doing a ton of research, which you will probably do some of that research anyway into other instruments if you're doing classical type stuff. But if you're doing more electronic stuff and more rock band type of stuff, it's getting that physical instrument. Learning what a real drummer sounds like, or learning what can actually be done physically possible on a guitar or a trumpet or anything, or on the bass or something like that. What notes can actually be hit, and can they be hit? Is it physically possible to hit them at the same time or something like that? That stuff is super important to know. The next big thing is learning to play an instrument allows you to play other people's songs, and that's an invaluable tool in growing as a musician, growing as a music creator, as a composer, a songwriter, honing your craft. By learning other people's music, it allows you to get under the skin of the music really, really easily, and kind of just doing it all through osmosis too, because you're picking it apart just by learning it. So that's really huge and really, really helpful. It'll definitely optimize and make you It'll definitely make you a better songwriter for sure. And lastly, it allows you to play with others and jam with other people and network with other people in a really intimate way that is there's nothing quite like it. Like when you jam with someone, you you have like a great rapport with someone. There's an intimacy in that, and that's really important, especially in the music industry, which is such a networking heavy industry. People make their livings based on who they know and what jobs and what opportunities can be created through their network and through the people that they know. And it's not like I know this person, I'm going to leverage them for a job. You don't go around just like asking people for work or asking your friends for work, but things happen. Your friend knows that you're really, really good at that when they jam together. So if an opportunity that needs your skill arises and they hear about it, they're going to refer you. It's basically like one giant referral thing, which is great. And really important how much of the music industry operates. So in that sense, learning to play physical instruments allows you to interface and connect with people on that level, which is super huge. And yeah, that's really it. I hope you guys, got something out of this. I definitely ranted on a lot of there for a while there, but it's learning instruments is super invaluable. It's super invaluable, not just invaluable. It not only is priceless, but but it's super priceless. It's just great. They're the myriad of benefits that you gain from learning an instrument. Even if you're stumbling across this, you don't even play. You're not even a songwriter, not even playing an instrument. You're not doing anything. If you start learning an instrument out of that, awesome. You're gonna have so many benefits in your life from learning an instrument. It's a great hobby to have, and you get to learn to play other people's songs. That's really fun. Okay, so that's all for today. Remember to go to justwritemusic.com and check out my free guide. It is super cool. And if you are writing some music, especially if you're in the box, these tools, oh man, these seven tools help you so much, particularly for in the box producers, because it's you don't have the same type of instincts that you do have on a physical instrument. So having these types of tools that are a little bit more abstract they're so much more valuable for in the box producers. So please go, and there'll be a link in the description. Head to justwritemusic.com. So let me know where to send it. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I was a little bit off the rails today for sure, but I don't know. Hit like if I should be more off the rails. I don't know. Yeah. So until next time, this is Avi from justwritemusic.com. Have a great one.